Happy National Girlfriend's Day, y'all. To those who celebrate, yes, the day I'm recording this, it is Happy National Girlfriend's Day. So shout out to all the boys and all the girls, the lesbians too. Shout out to anybody who has found that lucky gal. This does not count towards the ones who hate their girlfriend or are low-key cheating on them. No, you don't get to celebrate Happy National Girlfriend's Day. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be talking about, yet again, another Marvel movie. The third fucking one this year. Fantastic Four, directed by Matt Shakman, starring Pedro Pascal and Vanessa Kirby. Now, despite me opening up this review with that over-exaggerated, annoyed tone, believe it or not, I actually was excited for this film. From the trailers, things looked good. The costumes and colors were just vibrant. The casting made sense. And most importantly, we have yet to receive a competent Fantastic Four film. So I thought, who better to handle one than the MCU? Well, after watching this one, I honestly don't know the answer to that question. It could still very much be the MCU. There was potential here. But nevertheless, I won't lie to you, I left the theater disappointed. I found this film to be disappointing. It's not horrible, okay? Let me clarify. I'm not going to go that far. I just don't think it's very good. Now, if you're new to the channel, you should be aware I am not the type of person who's going to pretend it's god-awful or it's fucking trash just for views, clickbait, and epic crash-out moments. I find that to be just unproductive, lazy, pathetic. That's not my style. I'm also not a DC biased fanboy. I don't give a shit about franchises in general. I just want to watch a good movie. Now, there are some good qualities about this one, but it's cons. They're too heavy, they're too present for me to fully enjoy this new interpretation. If you're gonna comment rude things like, well, fuck this guy, I like the film. This guy doesn't seem to know how to turn his brain off and just have a fun time. He's a film bro. He kisses boys. Okay, well, congratulations. You have just discovered that art is subjective. If you had a fun time with this movie, by all means, live your truth. But before you comment that I'm a hater just to be a hater or a contrarian, at least let me explain why I didn't have a fun time with this movie. And then afterwards, you can call me a giant closeted homosexual. Let me go ahead and give Fantastic Four 2025 its props. Even with the flaws that I'm going to call out in a moment in this video, this is still probably the best interpretation of the Fantastic Four. Or I should say, this is the best live action movie of the Fantastic Four. And you know as well as I do, that is not a super hard accomplishment to achieve. Because up until this point, every single Fantastic Four movie has been garbage. Has been straight up ass. Nostalgia aside, the 2005 version and its sequel, the Silver Surfer one, they're both poorly made and mediocre. And they have not aged well at all. In more ways than one, mind you. I will say, on that note, the 2007 sequel, the Silver Surfer one, it isn't horrible. It's bad, but it's not horrible. In fact, I would say it definitely makes some pretty big improvements upon the first one, upon the 2005 version. Things like making Johnny a lot less annoying and more interesting with actual character development, making the story overall just more interesting, relying less on the terrible digital effects, an improvement in general on the digital effects. With that being said, obviously there's still some scenes in the Silver Surfer movie that do have bad VFX, such as the goated dance scene at the beginning. But overall, there were some noticeable improvements compared to the first one, which the first one would have easily been the worst Fantastic Four movie I've ever seen had I not watched the godforsaken 2015 version. My goodness. The 2015 Fantastic Four with Miles Teller and Michael B. Jordan. I watched it for the first time the other day. I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm not gonna be hyperbolic. The 2015 Fantastic Four is one of the biggest pieces of dog shit I've ever seen in my life. It is definitely one of the worst feature-length films of the 21st century. 1 out of 10 easily. That Rotten Tomato score of 9, that's most definitely earned. But thank God I'm not here to talk about that mess. I'm here to talk about this mess. No, I'm playing. No, I'm here to talk about this movie. Thank God the MCU did not go that route. Because why would anyone go that route? Why would anyone take the Fantastic Four and turn it into an overly serious, overly dramatic, sci-fi, tone-deaf horror? Oh, because it's a cool, unique, realistic take on the Fantastic Four, bro. Okay. Cool. To what extent? Tone exists. This is a comic book movie about comic book characters meant for children. It's like, imagine if you're watching a Batman movie and in the middle of it, all of a sudden, he just starts investigating Jeffrey Epstein. Like, what? Like, okay. No, the MCU took the smart route. They made these characters feel like a family, made this movie have a comic book tone and energy without feeling too corny or too cliche or ironic. They showed the uniqueness of the Fantastic Four by displaying their scientist side, that side arguably being more prominent than the superhero side, and they did it without the movie feeling stupid or tone deaf. In most aspects of filmmaking, this movie is either good or at least decent. Like the acting. The acting is standard from everybody. They all put on a decent, solid performance. I like these actors as these characters, but I wasn't crazy for them. The thing is, though, that's not even really their fault. Which brings me to my biggest problem with this movie. It may not be that crazy or shocking of a take because I've seen people on Twitter who have criticized this movie also point out this specific detail. And that is the editing. The editing in this film is my biggest problem with it. The chronological order of scenes, the literal story structure is just so bizarrely chopped up and put together. It's a barrier to anything and everything else this movie can offer. What I mean by that is the first act of this movie is good. It feels fluid, the scenes feel fairly paced, the story as it unfolds and the conflict arises, we see the response to said conflict, nothing feels rushed, nothing feels too out of place or wrong. We're getting proper character interactions, we're getting proper character motivations, the story is engaging, everything is progressing in a seamless way for the first 30 to 40 minutes. After that first act, after our characters come back from outer space, the fluidity is gone. Boop! Thrown out the fucking window. That seamless flow of the story has been pulled out of the car and shot to death. And it never comes back, and it's jarring. I'm not gonna spoil the movie, but scenes no longer feel like we're at point A, and we're gonna be traveling our way to point B. The story beats in the second act and the third act, they literally feel like we're in point A, but we gotta get to point B. We're not gonna travel there, we're gonna just fucking teleport there. And then we're gonna teleport to point C, and then point D, and so on until we get to the end of the movie. What I'm trying to say is, shit just happens, okay? Shit just happens. For the plot to progress, shit just happens. It doesn't feel seamless, it doesn't feel natural, it feels rushed, it feels baffling, and this feeling gets progressively more noticeable as the movie continues into the second act and definitely into the third act. There are story beats here that are explained via montage sequences that just feel sort of lazy. It's like slow down. Let us marinate in the gravity of the situation. Flesh out the story a bit more. Maybe give us time for our characters to develop or grow or go through turmoil or just show us something entertaining. The times that this movie decides to slow down, it always slows down on something not very interesting. In fact, it's quite boring. I'm not going to spoil the movie, but a good example, the S.H.I.E.L.D. subplot. During that whole little storyline, I was borderline falling asleep. And even though the stakes are made very clear, the threat does not feel as threatening as it should feel because, again, shit just happens. The story no longer feels like it's evolving. It just feels like it's changing scenes from one to the other just so we can get to the climax, just so we can get to that ending. There's no good sense of pacing. Like, there's an awkward scene between Johnny Storm and the Silver Surfer that's clearly meant to be an emotional highlight of the film, but it just comes off as jarring and a bit cringe because, like, the story literally comes to a halt. The momentum it was barely building on just pauses, and we focus on these two characters out of nowhere. Like, who gives a fuck about these people? You want me to care about someone's backstory the moment you drop it? Okay. How about make these characters interesting? How about make me want to care and learn about their backstory? But no, they don't do that. The scene overstays its welcome, it feels weird, and then it just ends. And then it moves on to the next scene, and it's like, what was that? The movie's editing can only be described as a 16-year-old learning how to drive for the first time ever. Hitting the gas when they should be hitting the brakes, going and stopping at such awkward times, feeling just janky. And I knew I wasn't tweaking because when I left the theater, I was thinking, bro, there are so many random scenes that just feel sewn together, and there are storylines with the movie is just expecting unearned emotional payoffs. I started wondering, were there any deleted scenes? Were there any important deleted scenes? Because it seems to me that there's a chunk of this story just missing. Sure enough, there was. Again, no spoilers, but there is enough deleted footage out there to actually justify a hashtag release the Shackman cut. Which, by the way, that's never gonna happen. That's already been shut down. It seems to me that the movie we got in the theaters is the only version we'll ever get. This chop shit. There was a character, a whole ass villain, played by John Malkovich. Yes, the John Malkovich, that was just cut entirely. He is not in the story at all, even though he was in the script and he also filmed all of his scenes. So anything to do with him, anything he did to our characters that could have affected them or made them grow or change, completely erased. How? Why? I don't understand. This movie's not even long. It's under 2 hours. This should have been like a 2-hour, 30-minute movie minimum. The only characters that felt like real characters that you should care for and root for were Reed Richards and Sue Storm, because their scenes felt like the only scenes that weren't butchered by the editing room, or at least their storyline. Because we spend time with them, we see them grow, we see them overcome conflict, not just crack one-liners, but we actually get to understand them. But last time I checked, this was called the Fantastic Four, not the Fantastic Two. Who gives a fuck about the Human Torch and the Thing in this movie? I'm not gonna lie, they were hoed. They were hoed completely. They legitimately felt forgotten. They felt like a side quest. As shit and mediocre as the older Fantastic Four movies are, they at least handled those characters, their dynamics, better. In the sense that not only did they all have an appropriate amount of screen time, but they all more felt like they had an equal screen presence about them. The group felt like a group. Yes, the story was shit, but it was fluid shit. The story itself evolved at a steady pace, unlike this film, where it just feels awkward. And because of that awkwardness, that noticeable lack of consistent storytelling that comes after the first act, the movie just drags. Not only do you not care about the characters, you don't care all too much about the story itself. Is this movie awful? No. Marvel hasn't made a truly awful film since earlier this year with Captain America Brave New World. Hello! But in all seriousness, this Fantastic Four movie is not horrible. I enjoyed the casting. Pedro Pascal and Vanessa Kirby, they had a great romantic, solid chemistry. The whole cast, even if I felt like the group itself didn't have a strong joint screen presence, I enjoyed their chemistry with each other. Their banter was pretty fun. Not as good as the chemistry of the cast of Thunderbolts, but still not bad. I really also enjoyed the aesthetic, the retro sci-fi 50s, 60s setting, you know, with the vinyl technology and their costumes and the flying car, the stupid ass R2-D2 robot. He was cool. The cinematography also made the aesthetics look pleasing. The colors popped. This was not an ugly gray mess shot in front of a green screen like Captain America Brave New World, dog shit movie. So props to that. The VFX, for the most part, looked really good. For the most part. Galactus, for one, looked amazing. For two, Reed Richards, this is the first time in a Fantastic Four movie where Reed Richards doesn't look like a total dunce. His powers actually look cool and not ugly and baffling in this movie. The Human Torch looked good in some shots, but a few close-ups, they didn't do him kindly, to say the least. It just looked like Joseph Quinn was painted orange in iMovie. And on that note, I will say, I don't care how comic book accurate you're trying to be, the Thing looked best on screen in the mid-2000s. Go back to makeup, go back to practical effects. The Thing in this movie looked wonky when he talked. I don't care how accurate it looks to his comic book version. 2005, 2007's The Thing blow this Thing and any other thing out the fucking water. But those are my little nitpicks and the pros for this movie. Overall, it really just has one thing holding it back. But that one thing is a pretty big deal, in my opinion, because it tanks the momentum and the potential of this whole story. Makes this entire interpretation far less interesting than what it could have been, and just completely squanders any potential there was with this cast, with this director, with this special effects team. I would like to see a sequel with this team, maybe next time with just a more concrete plan on what's actually gonna stay in the story. There's probably a better Fantastic Four movie out there on the cutting board, somewhere in some editing room, that's never gonna see the light of day. And that's tragic, but it is what it is. This is the movie we got. Now, finally, let's go ahead and give that final score. Every time I review a movie, I score it 1 through 10. For some context, recently I uploaded a video titled The Best and Worst Movies of 2025 So Far. In that video, I reviewed Thunderbolts. I gave Thunderbolts a 5 out of 10. Now, there are a lot of people out there, when they hear that, they're thinking, oh, Swans TV, why'd you hate it? Why'd you think it was so bad? It's not that ass. That's not a low score. It's 5 out of 10. It's right in the middle. By definition, it's mid. I give out that score when I think a movie is okay, when I think it's alright, it's decent, where I enjoyed it enough to where I didn't feel like I wasted my time, but maybe not enjoyed it enough to where I would want to rewatch it. That's exactly how I felt about Thunderbolts, so I gave it a 5 out of 10. I gave Captain America Brave New World, since it's abysmal dog shit, a 3 out of 10, so I think it's only fair to say that Fantastic Four gets a fantastic 4 out of 10. This is below mid in my opinion. It wasn't god-awful like Brave New World. It had a few high highs, especially in that first act, but it just had a constant low. For the similar recommendation, of course, I have to recommend Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer from 2007, literally only for the epic, random, white people Japanese wedding at the end.
I've got a better idea.
Yeah, that was cool. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that does it for my review. Let me know if you agree or disagree. I got a together spoiler-free review coming up shortly, along with part 2 of Best and the Worst Movies of 2025 so far. Watch the first one if you haven't already. These are the movies I talked about in that first video, and these are some of the movies I'm going to be talking about in the next video. Those 2 videos will be coming out shortly, and as always, subscribe. We need 1,000 subs, Swans family. Let's do this. Thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you at the next one. Happy National Girlfriend Day. My girlfriend has a big fat